In our last episode in the series on the End Times, we covered the rise of the forces of chaos in the old world of the Warhammer fantasy universe. Now, with Norska firmly under the command of the Legions of Chaos, the vanguard of Archon would march south towards their next target, the realm of the Ice Queen, a nation built upon the constant need to prepare for the inevitability of threats from the north and over the World's Edge mountains. Welcome to the second episode in our series, where we will cover Kislev's defense against chaos. You look down on us and think we are little better than barbarians, but you should be glad we are, for without us here, the northern tribes would be dining on the flesh of your children in your burning homes. But for the courage that flows in our veins, would your lands be theirs? Look down on us? You should get on your knees and thank us every day. Vitalia Kovash, Kislevite Winged Lancer. Kislev was ruled by a line of mighty Tsars and Tsarinas, monarchs representing the regal ancestry of horse warriors of the eastern steppes thousands and thousands of years prior. He or she is the ultimate authority of all spiritual, military and legal matters of their territory that has consistently and successfully balanced the need to defend their northern border from chaos assaults and the requirement to cooperate with their southern siblings of humanity. When the Tsar Boris Boka was slain in an ambush by Chaos Horse warriors hailing from the eastern steppes during a defense of Kislev's northern border, the last and greatest Tsarina would be crowned in 2517 IC, Katarin, the Ice Queen. Hers was a heavy burden, for she assumed a great yoke of responsibility to not only her people but to the whole world, to stave off the tide of doom from the northern wastes. When she was younger, she was allowed to study ice magic, a particularly dangerous branch of arcane mastery. Able to command the icy soul of Kislev itself in great feats of deadly and wonderful splendor, some even began to wonder if she was the reincarnation of the first Tsarina, Miska, also the master of ice magic. Katarin rose to the throne of Kislev when her father perished. At her coronation, she amassed her ice magic to create a grand palace of ice, where she would rule firmly and fairly. Unlike her father, the Ice Queen governed through agents and generals instead of commanding from the front, and would only appear on the battlefield in the most crucial times. However, when she led the charge, she was always astride a great glimmering steed of winter majesty, with shining flanks of ice crystals and a breath like a winter wind. With such power over the elements and devotion from her soldiers, there was clear proof that she had the blood of the first Kislevite rulers flowing strongly through her veins. Katarin, in addition to her two gloriously frigid mounts she would bring into battle, bore two legendary pieces of war gear. Fearfrost was a blade forged by the first female ruler of Kislev, Miska, and passed down to each succeeding Tsarina. Only a Tsarina could wield Fearfrost, and when a man would attempt to even lift the blade, he would find himself frozen to death within a heartbeat. Infused with ice magic, the intense cold of the weapon turned even a single scratch into a deadly affair. The Crystal Cloak was a cloak that Katarin wore, enveloping her with a swirling mist of dancing ice crystals that served as the ultimate defense. Together, they blessed Katarin with the destructive power of deep winter on the battlefield. You all know I bore no heirs, but I have all my sons and daughters here with me today. On this rain-soaked hill, we are all one people, one land. Today we fight for Kislev. Today we fight for her lost sons and daughters, for her proud mothers and fathers. Kislev is people, and people are Kislev. Tsarina Katarin, the Ice Queen of Kislev. One of the Ice Queen's first initiatives as Tsarina was to see the end of an incursion of Elfric Cienwulf's Wolven warriors, accursed and corn-worshipping regiments of this Chaos Champion's armies. Marching further inland to Usbea, or Ursen's Teeth, the Ice Queen left the capital to ensure the Sacred Valley would remain protected. With this vital misstep, a Herald of Archon saw the perfect opportunity to invade Kislev. Vardek Krom the Conqueror marched south into the icy plains of Kislev territory. Much to his surprise, he met with resistance, not by a great army of secret Kislev reserves, but by a much more notorious warmonger, the legendary Grimgor Ironhide. The green-skinned warmaster grew tired of slaughtering Skaven and set forth to intercept Vardek's advancing legions in a surprise flank. Grimgor was determined to test the proclaimed might of these Chaos servants, and charged forth to meet Vardek in single combat. Grimgor and Vardek clashed blades for hours, each determined to prove themselves as the superior force of fury upon the world. The Orc submitted himself fully to this righteous fight against the champion of Chaos, and in his moment of blindness, Vardek bolstered his legions to decimate Grimgor's supporting army. With the mighty Greenskin now truly alone on the battlefield, Crom disarmed Grimgor with a final and commanding sweep of his blade. Crom spared Grimgor in a strange gesture, perhaps of respect or pity, though it is likely that the champion's motives will never be known. With incomprehensible rage boiling within the Greenskin's soul, Grimgor retreated to Hort Pass. There, Grimgor would set to work immediately, determined to see this personal grudge to the end. He summoned orcs and goblins from all within his sphere of influence, who upon hearing of the great bravery of Grimgor, amassed in the largest war ever seen in history. Meanwhile, with Grimgor's antics largely unknown to Vardek Crom, the armies of Chaos advanced to the Kislevite town of Praag. This bastion of the north, Praag, had been granted the title of the Cursed City, forever locked in a ceaseless cycle of rebuilding, defending onslaught after onslaught of threats from the north. The people residing within Praag had been corrupted with mutation and madness, remaining under the mentality of siege defense forever. Even with such constant destruction and death among their streets, the citizens of Praag remained defiant. In times of fragile peace, the city was blessed with prosperous trade through the River Linsk. This made Praag a ripe target for raiding and siege, and with its attack from the north, Chaos corruption would sink its roots into the city and warp the health of those that lived there. Subterfuge and corruption was also common, particularly among the vampire agents planted among the citizens and government of Prague. With Prague's proximity to Troll country, the city was a tempting target for the Troll king Throg. Most in the old world know trolls as great beasts of limited foresight and intelligence. Yet when the forces of Chaos closed in on the border of Troll country, the minds of these monsters warped into unusually cunning, grim desires. Throg, the greatest in stature and newfound intelligence, announced that he would usher in a new destiny for the world, to enslave the hubris of man, starting with the accursed wealth and defensive position of Prague. It is the hubris of men to see their own destiny in all things. Von Carstein, the ever-chosen, dead men, exalted men. In their skin they are all still men. This will be the age of the beast. Throg, king of the trolls. Determined to be the first to establish a new ice palace for his hordes of trolls, Throg began his assault on the mountain gate, northmost defense of the great city. Once the gates had been destroyed, he met with a great beast hunter of Kislev, Ilya of Morova. Astride a great bear of Kislev, he fought valiantly against the mad troll king, but ultimately met his demise when Throg crushed them both at their defense of the broken mountain gate. Without the leadership of the legendary monster hunter, Kislev's defensive bastion fell to the troll king, who established a palace of ice for himself and his kin to summon further warriors to enact the Age of the Beast. As if losing the greatest defensive outpost against the north wasn't damning enough, the Kislevite port of Erengrad soon met a maritime assault by the fleet of Gutrot Spoom, who had only recently sunk the last Nordic dwarf fleet. Erengrad, without Prague's defiant forces to support her vulnerable port in the Staravoda Bay, sustained a massive assault from the infamous Plague fleet. Safely anchored in the port without a challenge from the shore, Gutrot's fleet fired volleys of pox-infected projectiles directly into the city. Great disease and suffering afflicted all who dared to make a defense within the city, and soon Erengrad had become a doomed ulcer upon the land, a diseased mockery of its once bustling life of trade. The defensive shell around Kislev's capital had sundered under the pressure of overwhelming numbers from the north. The Ice Queen had still yet to return from her initiative in Ursun's Teeth, and her forces were still recovering from the costly defense of this region, so sacred to Kislev. Another opportunity such as this was too tempting to the Chaos champions, and so Mordrake the Damned rose to the challenge and besieged the heart of Kislev. Let Mordrake be a warning to all those who would seek fame and life eternal from the demon gods of chaos, for he has both these things, and yet he is damned. Hugo Lazare's grim stories and cautionary tales. Mordrake himself was blessed, or cursed, with true immortality. He had suffered many deaths, many violent and bloody, only to be resurrected again to serve the Chaos gods. Underneath his armor, his body writhes and mutates, ever changing from the constant resurrection of his form. It is rumored that his freedom from this damned state of being is to slay in the name of his infernal masters, who will never tire of their games played upon mortal matters. Mordrake commanded 3 gifts of Chaos's power. The Sword of Change, which mutated any foe who had the misfortune of being struck into hideous chaos spawn. He was often astride a chaos steed, a demonic mockery of a proud warrior's companion. With a nearly impenetrable suit of chaos armor, Mordrake was very skilled at twisting his enemies into his own puppets, killing beasts of chaos that rend their once comrades to shreds. The damned Count assaulted the city and charged into the heart of the capital to confront the authority of the winged lancers of Kislev's Griffin Legion. The champions of chaos crashed like dark waves on white shores, sowing terror and destruction within the last Kislevite defenders. Mordrake drew his blade and pierced the heart of the Legion, determined to demonstrate the might and authority over chaos. Sweeping his blade against the tide of oncoming lancers, his blade smited each opponent and transformed them into twisted, rabid beasts of chaos. With the point of his sword towards the Legion's captain, he ordered the new swarm of chaos spawn to devour their previous captain alive. The captain of the Legion was devoured in front of his men, and with morale shattered, Kislev's capital melted in submission to Mordrake's armies. When the Ice Queen finally returned from her defense against Cienwulf's assault, she did not find the splendor of her home to comfort her. Instead, she found the desolation of Chaos's touch upon the ancestral capital. Despite her best efforts to rally support in the Boka Palace, the net of established regiments began to strangle the palace's limited reinforcements. To ensure that the Ice Queen may carry on the legacy of Kislev's defiance towards chaos, a sacrificial charge of Ungals, who were ancient residents of Kislev's plains, provided the Tsarina enough time and a clear enough route to escape past the armies of Mordrake and flee to the fallen city of Erengrad, where she thought that she may find valiant warriors to help take back the capital. The strength of Kislev lies in you all. The land has called you all here, and it is here that you will put that strength to the test, defying chaos. There is power in this land, and tomorrow it will run in all your veins. Use it well. The Ice Queen of Kislev. Katarin marched north with speed, and with the valiant few who still clung to hope for their destroyed homeland. When the Ice Queen entered the port city of Erengrad, she witnessed firsthand the horror of Gutrot's maritime siege. The populace was weak and dying, afflicted with innumerable disgusting diseases. When it seemed that the Ice Queen had a brief moment to guide her people towards an escape south towards the Empire, a roaming army of beastmen closed in to secure the death of all those remaining. Remaining within the city alongside agents of the Empire's Bright Order, Katarin summoned a storm of ice and fire in a final push to loosen the foothold Chaos had secured upon the world. From the doomed city of Kislev, and unbothered by the raging storm over Erengrad, the Chaos hordes descended south towards the foot of Balthazar Gelt's Golden Bastion, eager to further their trail of apocalyptic destruction. Our series on the end times will continue, and we're planning to cover the battles of all major fantasy, sci-fi and alternative history worlds, so make sure you have subscribed and pressed the bell button. Please consider liking and sharing. This goes a long way to help us in the eyes of the almighty algorithm. We'll try to read and respond to every comment, as we want to see what you think about this video and which videos you hope to see in the future. Your feedback is very important to us. This is the Wizards and Warriors channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.